I have been a driver, striver, and achievement chaser my whole life. I'm the oldest of four to a single mom, and being important and achieving and being recognized was always important to me. And I think growing up with very little, in and out of poverty, shopping at the food pantry, wearing my cousin's hand me downs and my cousins who were boys, that was obviously humbling, but it gave me an unquenchable desire for money. And while there's nothing wrong with money, and we know that in the Bible, it is the love of money that is the challenge for us. And that was absolutely my story. I wanted to go make as much money as I could because to me, money would have saved our family. Money would have transformed everything for my mom and for my siblings. And money was my savior for a very long time. But that gracious, gracious woman said two things to me. She said, number one, I don't think you know who you are or whose you are. And number two, do you know Jesus? Now, let me step back for a second because I had been raised Catholic. And as we grew up, my mom gave us the opportunity to choose the way that we wanted to go with our belief. But she always taught us that God lived in us. And I knew of Jesus from Catholic school. But at that point in my life, in my 40s, I was very tied into some new age thinking. And so for me, Jesus was sort of this mashup of the universe and the law of attraction and this very famous guy. So when I said, "Oh, of course I know Jesus," she very knowingly and lovingly said, "That's not what I mean. You are so self sufficient," she said to me. "You're so super responsible," she said, "but you're driving yourself into these spirals because you think you have to take care of everything and everyone on your own. And you have a savior that is here to relieve you of that. He wants you to sit at his feet. He wants you to understand the unforced rhythm of grace, as it says in Matthew 11:28 in the Message version." And that day, from what I thought was rock bottom, I looked up and I grabbed the life preserver of Jesus. I didn't know what that meant altogether, but what I knew is that things began to feel differently. That I was still a driver and striver, and I still struggle with that today because that is part of my sanctification. But that I lost this need to have every single incentive to chase after the dollar. That suddenly I looked at business very differently. And through that relationship and a hunger for the word, I started to unpack what the Bible would say about me as a daughter of the Most High King, and that my achievements were not tied at all to being anchored in his love and his care. And that began a journey with Jesus that I like to say he met me where I was. I was an ambitious woman who got lost on her way to the top and was found by him. And he said, "Why don't you let me drive for a while and you hold this roadmap," which was the Bible. So the next few years, he began to unravel so much in my life, and that pruning still goes on today. But in 2018, I started to have conversations with other women who were feeling like I did. And as I sat with the Lord and asked, how could I help them or what did that look like? He began to show me the way forward as a business coach for these high achieving women who loved the Lord, but didn't quite want to give up control to him. The biggest things that have come out of this relationship with Jesus are an unsurpassed peace, which very often I don't notice. I'm still a work in progress. Better relationships, certainly with my husband and my children, but I'm able to look at business from a different perspective. Yes, I make money in my business, and yes, that's important, but that's not the only reason that I run my business. And it's not the only reason and the only way that God shows me the success that he wants me to experience. So if that sounds like something that you face, I invite you to continue listening to this podcast. I invite you to reach out and let's chat about how maybe we could work together. And I invite you to sit with the Lord. In fact, the episode that published on January 8th was all about going deep with the Lord and letting him take care of the big, because that truly is the secret to any success in any facet of your life, is to go deep with the Lord.